Boys, we are back. Welcome to another episode of Squad Talk FPL. Already, I am told, the 6th or 7th most popular podcast hosted here in little old Palmer, Massachusetts, and we are not stopping there. I'm your host, Nick Boonstra, aka FPL Cricket, aka A Real Boon, aka How's the Weather Up There? And I am so glad to have you joining us today. Right up front, I want to remind you, if you're new to the show, if you're new to the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe or follow wherever you are watching or listening. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. We are anywhere and everywhere your ear tongues are available to taste these truth popsicles. And if you're new to FPL the game, very glad to have you on board. As Ray Charles said himself, the best time to add Erling Haaland to your squad was 20 years ago, but the second best time is right the hell now. And listen, if you've already got him like some of us do, then you can get yourself together and let the good times roll. So excited to have you along for today's episode. Listen, you spoke and I listened last week. It was a Friday episode. It was a shorter one. It was just to the point, and I'm going to keep things going that way. Fridays are a good day for me, and I'm excited to be reaching you right before the deadline, right when things matter most for Gameweek 5. As part of that, we're going to leave the personal updates over on my personal channel as well. So if you do want to check that out, youtube.com/@arealboon. I don't know why they decided to set it up that way, but that's how you find channels on YouTube, and that is mine, A Real Boon, over on YouTube here for some of my more personal work outside of sports, outside of FPL, so go ahead and check that out. But as far as the FPL goes, you can go ahead and stay right here. We're going to have you covered for that. In today's episode, short and sweet, we're going to look back at Game Week 4, we're going to look ahead to Game Week 5, give you some of my thoughts looking even further ahead into Game Week 6, and go from there. So without any further ado, let's jump right on in. You know, guys, I gotta be honest, it was a good week. I really can't be that upset with how Game Week 4 went for me. I sneezed. Well, boys, I gotta be honest, I really can't be that upset with how Game Week 4 went for me and for the Boon Squad. 64 points, just a hair above the Game Week average of 63. So a whopping 5.8 million Game Week rank, but only really just a small red arrow from right outside the top 100,000 to just within the top 300,000. 295, 304 is the overall rank going into Game Week 5. Still no chips played, still no hits taken, still a wild card ready and available to use. And as we'll get to, that may be getting used very, very soon. So I'm looking forward to that. 6 points from Pickford and Pedro Porro in defense. Diouf and Senesi, nothing really to write home about there. Erling Haaland, captain, 26 points up front. Very happy with that. Evan Nielsen with a 5-pointer along the front line with him. Blanks for Bruno Fernandes, Kudus, Paquetá, and Gakpo. Tarkowski left on the bench with an 8-pointer, but what are you going to do about that? But the highlight, folks, we made possibly the craziest transfer of our 10-year FPL career here in Boonstraland, and we moved Mo Salah out for Cole Palmer. I gotta tell you, it really hurt to see Salah get that last-minute penalty. It was a bummer. It was a spirit breaker. It's not what you want to see when you go ahead and sell somebody. Obviously, it came against Burnley. Obviously, it was the only goal Liverpool could muster against Burnley, which might be a bit of a red flag, despite how they obviously performed in the Champions League this week as well. So do with that what you will. And obviously, Mo Salah was silent for most of the game, really didn't do much. I'm seeing stats on Twitter saying that if it wasn't for the last 3 or 4 minutes of stoppage time this season in each of the 4 games Liverpool have played so far, Mo Salah would be looking at a non-penalty XG of something like 0.03, and I'm sure his expected assist isn't much better than that. So we'll see how the addition of Isak up front and how that works with Gakpo and Ekitike and maybe even Florian Wirtz can start getting things together in that number 10 role as well. Who knows, kind of obviously Salah is safe in the lineup. I don't think any of those people moving around are going to threaten his spot there on the right wing, but just based on what kind of space he'll have, who he'll be working with, and how he'll be able to use that space, I am certainly sweating a little bit now that he's out of my team. At the same time, listen, if Cody Gakpo is going to get the better chances, the better XG, XA numbers, and again, you know I don't necessarily love those as much as some people do, but we're going to fix this in the edit. All I'm trying to say is Cody Gakpo is half the price of Salah. You lose out on penalties. It looks like you're getting better production. And if that means you can work in players like Cole Palmer, like Gyökeres up front, like Haaland if you still need to get him into your team, hopefully the production picks up for Gakpo. I do think this week for Liverpool against Everton is going to be a little tougher than a lot of people do. I do think Liverpool will score goals, but I also, again, worry about the Liverpool defense, so we'll see how that goes. But Gakpo as my Liverpool midfield asset is what I'm running with for now, and I feel all right about it. Maybe I'm just coping, but telling myself getting everything but the penalties for half the price of Salah is something I'll take this season. But Cole Palmer, guys, scored midweek in the Champions League for Chelsea, scored off the bench in his return for Chelsea. I'm excited. I'm glad that I have him, and I'm glad that I have him going up against a questionable Man United and Man U defense. I don't know if Bayindir is still starting in goal here, but certainly think Cole Palmer has the ability to get on the score sheet goals and assists, so I'm excited to have him. Looking forward to keeping him in my team for a long time. I know that I was very low on Chelsea going into the season, and I don't know, something about the rest, because again, as we all know, I haven't said this before on the show, but I think it's time we speak the truth. Suspensions, injuries, people being rested on the bench versus in the starting lineup, these are skill issues. We don't need to look to Twitter to know these things. These are skill issues that you and I know here on the Squad Talk FPL podcast. Injuries are skill issues. Did I celebrate Cole Palmer coming out against West Ham before the game started with an injury? Yes. Does that make me a terrible person? Absolutely. Am I now gloating the fact that he is back in the lineup before everybody thought he might be? 100%. Injuries are skill issues. That's all I'm going to say. But it's 7 points from Cole Palmer, his first open play goal in like months for Chelsea, which is outside of whatever maybe even including, I think it was just Premier League, yeah, but Cole Palmer wasn't getting many open play goals with Chelsea in recent history in the Premier League. So very excited that he is back on the score sheet and very excited that he is in my squad. So 64 points overall on a week where the average score was 63. So not really doing too much. Again, everyone's still very bunched up in the whole standings here. So to be in the top 300,000 with all of my chips still to play for this first half of the season is something that I am very happy to see and to share with you. Quick update on the Squad Talk FPL League, and remember, if that's something you would like to join for yourself, you are more than welcome to. Our code is 07HAXP, and the link is down in the description as well. Still top of the league, 264 points total on the season. Johnny's still in second, Bobby's still in third. Would love to see more people join in that league, and who knows, I'm not much of a Discord head, but maybe if we get enough folks kicking around and enough interest in something like that, then we might start a little community for Squad Talk FPL here. So go ahead and jump on into that. Just a quick look at the at those other teams in the league. Johnny going ahead playing his wild card, and I think it looks good going forward. Did keep Salah alongside Gakpo. 2 Crystal Palace defenders, Richards and Munoz. I don't know why I'm stuttering today, guys. I apologize. But 2 solid Crystal Palace defenders. Semenyo, who I believe Johnny already had in his squad, is looking like a better and better pick every single week. Yes, he did, and good for you keeping him even through a blank. Gyökeres, Joao Pedro, and Ekitike, I'm curious to see. I'm sure he'll make some sort of forward transfer there, and I know he wants to get Palmer into his squad as well, so curious to see how that goes. Shout out to you for keeping Senesi on the bench there. I know I didn't dive too deep into it. Starting Diouf over Tarkowski in my back line might have been a questionable decision. I just had a gut feeling that this was the week that Aston Villa broke their duck, and again, as high as I've been on the Everton defense, I just thought that was going to be the week that they would do it. Clearly I was wrong. I know Diouf has a very high upside in terms of attacking returns, but very low downside in terms of potential defensive liabilities, and certainly Crystal Palace have a good shot at continuing to exploit that and maybe getting Graham Potter fired. Who knows? Bobby and the FPL bench warmers over here, meanwhile, did start Tarkowski, so shout out to you, Captain Sala, and listen, kudos. Penalties are penalties, points are points. I was listening to, I think it was FPL Mate earlier, his Friday update here, and talking about how Mo Salah is the kind of player where he can have a bad game for 90, 95 minutes and still end up returning and getting a good haul, even as a captain for you. So always going to have to keep that in mind. Outside of Salah and Tarkowski, really no returns here. Rodin with 2 points, presumably, yes, for defensive contributions. So shout out to those who had him for that. And certainly I think Leeds are going to be an interesting team. Wolves, Bournemouth, and Tottenham in the next 3. I don't know how Wolves away is a 3 on the fixture difficulty rating. I certainly think Leeds attackers have a chance to feast on that, and I'm not really too worried defensively about Wolves scoring either, certainly with Strand Larson out. So that is a good hold certainly for this week. Ollie Watkins, again, who knows what's going on? I think they got a goal midweek. What was that? The EFL Cup, so that's something I know. They're up against Sunderland and Burnley as 2 of their next 3 matches. I think the Burnley defense is a bit stronger. I mean, again, they just held Liverpool to, nothing but a penalty. And even that penalty came down to 10 men. Couldn't do it in open play. So who knows, again, whether you want to read into what that means about Liverpool. I think they're faltering this year. I see Man City taking the title away from them. I don't think it's going to maybe Arsenal, but I think City is back to their best, certainly with Erling Haaland back to his best. It's going to have to turn around soon. And again, I don't know if that means Unai Emery might be out the door if we get another bad week. If Sunderland keeps a clean sheet against Aston Villa here and scores a goal or two of their own, then it could be very hot water very quickly. As much as I love Unai Emery, could be a tricky situation. Sorry, Tarkowski, Salah, and Gyökeres all returning. Don't let me talk down to your team here, Bobby. For a total of 52 points there, so it's looking good. Xhaka on the bench. It's an interesting clean sheet in DEFCON, so interesting to go for there. And then I know Murillo is someone that a lot of people are looking at his fitness, his potential, what the Nottingham Forest defense is going to look like going forward. Still think Chris Wood is a viable option for anyone who has him. So for what that is worth. Don't worry too much. I think, again, they're going to have to break back out at some point and get things figured out. So looking ahead to this coming game week 5, I think 90% sure that I'm going to be rolling my transfer. I haven't made any transfer yet for the week, and I don't really see myself making any big moves. Just to read out the squad as it stands before I go in depth on each individual player, it is, again, Pickford in net, Diouf, Pedro Porro, and Senesi along the back line, Captain Cole Palmer alongside Cody Gakpo, Bruno Fernandes, Mo Kudus, and Lucas Paquetá in the midfield. Haaland gets the vice-captain armband away to Arsenal. Evan Nilsson for Bournemouth against Newcastle up front. And then on the bench, we've got Dubravka, the goalie. Tarkowski again getting a benching, which I feel a little iffy about, but I'll explain. And then Mark Guiu and Axel Tuanzebe, 2 players that I would love to get out of my squad as soon as possible. So goalie is a big question for me this week. Pickford away for Everton against Liverpool. Dubravka at home for Burnley against Nottingham Forest. My gut, not that it's always right, not that it is even often right necessarily in these things, but my gut says that neither Everton nor Burnley keep a clean sheet. I think Liverpool are going to find ways to score. Hopefully it's only 1 or 2, but I do think that Nottingham Forest are also going to get 1 or 2 of their own. Again, whether that's Chris Wood, whether just Ange Ball figures it out, and I'm sure, again, Burnley may get 1 or 2 of their own going the other way, so shout out to you if you're able to capitalize on that. But I'm just thinking, if we're living in a world where neither goalie is really going to be a high likelihood to get a clean sheet, then you start looking at save points, you start looking at, who knows, even potential bonus points, and I just think Pickford is the better bet for that. I don't know if, again, the Everton defense is looking solid. I thought Aston Villa were finally going to break their duck and get goals against Everton here, and they end up going ahead keeping a clean sheet. We've already seen Pickford save a penalty already this year. I don't know if he saves the Mo Salah penalty if it comes to that. But I'm in a situation where I just feel like I have to bank on save points over clean sheet points, and if it's down to Pickford and Dubravka for that question, I'm going to go with Jordan Pickford and just hope that the downside isn't too bad. With that being the case, if I have to go double Everton defense against Liverpool attack that's likely to score versus, again, going for the upside of Diouf against Crystal Palace defense at the London Stadium. My thought is, listen, just limit the downside, bench Tarkowski. Now, again, there's a universe in which Everton somehow does keep a clean sheet. Liverpool, it just all falls apart. We finally see at Anfield everything fall to pieces and Everton gets a 1 or 2-0 win. Jack Grealish getting assists for Garner, Dewsbury Hall, Njai, or whoever, maybe even scored one of his own. There's a universe in which that happens and in which I lose out on the Tarkowski points. Again, I know he's very likely to get the defensive contributions as well, and at a certain point, again, you just bench him and say, I'm glad that I already have him, that I don't need to spend a transfer on him, and that I hope that he gets a lot of transfers in and I can capitalize on a price rise so that I can ship him off to an Arsenal defender later in the season. But I just think it's a risk, and I want to limit the downside. I think there are many more timelines, many more universes in which Liverpool do score and in which Tarkowski doesn't produce. Now, again, I could be sitting here next week on the back of a Tarkowski-headed goal and just absolutely kicking and screaming and shouting and just upset. That's a distinct possibility. So we'll see what happens. And again, here at FPL, we're gamblers, but we don't gamble our monetary, financial capital. We gamble our emotional capital. That's what we spend and hope to win here at FPL Bunker Base Boon Squad. I don't know what I'm saying, man. We're just recording an episode here. Tarkovsky gets on the bench. Is there a possibility that between now and tomorrow morning that changes? Absolutely, and maybe Diouf does end up on the bench there. But right now it is Diouf starting, hoping that he'll get an attacking return, shoot, maybe even a goal. He certainly looks more likely to score than Tarkovsky does at this point this season, especially with the fixtures. And we're just hoping for best case scenarios here while we'll try to limit downside. Pedro Porro is probably not long for my team. It looks like Van de Ven might be the pick out of the Tottenham defense. If they're both just going to be sitting around for clean sheet and defensive contribution points, I'll take the one who's cheaper for the same point return. Senesi, I don't know if I can bench him really ever again. He's just that guy. Gakpo, again, we're hoping that there's something productive on the left. It sounds like Isak is probably going to start for Liverpool, so that'll be interesting. See how that interaction continues to go. I think Isak had a good debut in the Champions League there, and I certainly wouldn't be shocked if he gets his first Liverpool goal against Everton this weekend. Cole Palmer, like I said, the Man U defense really doesn't have me all that worried. It is an interesting week for captaincy. Again, if you have Salah, that you're probably captaining him and feeling good about that, hoping that he returns to form, and there's every likelihood that he does. So kudos to you. I was a little nervy, a little shaky, and I wanted to get in early on Palmer before any big price rises, anything like that. And while his ownership was still low, so happy to have him and happy to captain him against the Man U defense, but still alongside him keeping Bruno Fernandes. Certainly every possibility he gets on the score sheet, any sort of penalty, set piece, maybe an assist. And he's been popping up with defensive contribution points as well, so we'll take a look at that. Kudus is looking iffy. He's great at dribbling. He's looking less and less likely to return. But I'm not super high in the Brighton defense. Love the MX. Shout out South Coast of England there. Hopefully Kudus figures that out. Maybe he gets his maiden goal for Tottenham Hotspur there. Maybe he gets another assist for Richarlison. We will see. Hopes are high. Paquetá, again, is just kind of, he's cheap. You just plug him in and hope that he is at his best and not at his worst. Again, even when West Ham are at their worst, Paquetá can haul. I still can't believe that he got 2 bonus points in a 5-1 loss to Chelsea a couple weeks ago. So I think he's still a bit of an underrated pick. Not that I feel super comfortable or confident having him in my team, given how West Ham look these days, but we're certainly hoping that he can put things together. I did think about captaining Haaland just because I know that no one else will. I think he can still score. Obviously, the Arsenal defense is tough, but I think an interesting dynamic of the City-Arsenal matchup here is the master and the apprentice, and I think Pep might have a way to figure out Mikel Arteta and the Arsenal lineup there, so don't be surprised if Man City do squeak a couple past David Raya and Arsenal here. That being said, I still think Arsenal get a goal. Donnarumma had a great first performance for Man City last week, so who knows? But don't be surprised if both teams get on the score sheet. Maybe we're looking at 2-1 City, 2-2 draw. Certainly it would be exciting if that was the case, and I think those are going to be the title contenders this year. Evan Nilsson for Bournemouth going up against Newcastle. I do rate the Newcastle defense highly, so I'm just kind of hoping that he pops up, maybe an assist, maybe a goal. I still think Semenyo is the pick. I shouldn't say still think. I'm now thinking that Semenyo really is the pick from the Bournemouth attack, and shout out to you if you've already gone there. And on that note, a quick look into some of my thoughts for game week 6. Now, I haven't pulled the trigger on this. I'm not married to this, not committed to this yet, but there's a strong possibility. I think, what did I start the season by saying? I wanted to wait until game week 8 to play my wild card. I may go right ahead and do it in game week 6. So what I'm looking at is moving out. Who would it be? It would be Porro out. It would be Tuanzebe out. It would be Bruno Fernandes out alongside Mo Kudus, and we would be getting Evan Nilsson and Mr. Mark Guiu out of the team as well, to put together a 15-man squad that would look like this: Petrovic for Bournemouth and Dubravka for Burnley, both at the goalkeeper position. Defenders: keep Senesi, Tarkovsky, and Diouf. Throw in Mark Guehi for Crystal Palace and Mickey van de Ven for Tottenham Hotspur. Guehi could also be Richards if I wanted to save a little money, and depending on how both defenders look this weekend. In midfield, keeping Palmer and Gakpo and Paquetá. I'm a little iffy about keeping Paquetá, again, just because with West Ham, you never really know. but also he could literally be like a false nine. So there's always questions. I wonder if they might also go for like a 3-5-2, 4-4-2 and put both Wilson and Füllkrug up front. So that could also be interesting as well, and put Paquetá more in the either off playing on the left wing or maybe in a more central number 10 role. There's a lot of possibilities. He's not my favorite asset to keep, but right now it's the most likely. And then throwing in Semenyo, like I said, just phenomenal pick, and shout out to anyone who went there early. As well as Dewsbury Hall is a bit of a last bench option, a little Everton midfield there for you. He's no Grealish, but he's certainly shown he can be a minute's reliability and a potential option to throw in there. And then up front, keeping Haaland alongside Gyökeres and João Pedro. Now, like I referenced earlier, Tarkowski, if I do go down this road, Tarkowski could be an Arsenal defender later in the season. Obviously, playing your wildcard means you don't get another one until the midway point and things roll over. I do like the fact that we're getting 5 free transfers, topped up with free transfers once AFCON comes around, so that'll give us options and give all of us options to get out of any early wildcard regrets or mistakes. But the biggest thing is I feel like this would be, and I haven't looked at fixtures specifically, I feel like this 15-man squad could be a phenomenal bench boost. Guys like Guéhi, Dewsbury Hall, Diouf, Tarkowski, like, who's the 5th bench option? This is a great squad. As I have it configured with Guéhi, it leaves nothing in the bank, and if I am going to do this, I'm probably going to have to pull the trigger pretty quickly right after this Gameweek 5 deadline rolls over, just to avoid any price moves and anything like that. But this would be a phenomenon. I know it would take out Erling Haaland triple captaining it against Burnley. I think Haaland will score, but I would rather save something like that for a Man City against Leeds, a bit of a more open defense, or even maybe wait for the off chance that we get any blank or double game weeks later in this first half of the season. So that's something you might as well play it at some point. I don't know if any one week is better than any other for the triple captainship in this first half of the season, but it's something that I want to wait a little bit longer on. Don't want to hit the make transfers button quite yet. So that's what I'm thinking about. Again, Petrovic and Dubravka as my keepers, Senesi, Van de Ven, Tarkowski, Guéhi, and Diouf along the back line, Palmer, Gakpo, Semenyo, Dewsbury Hall, and Paquetá for midfielders, and then João Pedro, Victor Gyökeres, and Erling Haaland up front. I just think it's a great 15-man squad. Gyökeres and João Pedro both won my attention. I know they were 2 players that I was skeptical of to start the season, but I really feel like they are showing themselves more and more, as long as they stay fit, as viable options going forward. Certainly, if there was any concern about fitness for Gyökeres, he could be moved up to Alexander Isak with a little bit of tinkering. It is a risk to miss out on him. Who knows if João Pedro starts to dry up with goals and Chris Wood is turning things around, that could be a move to make. I'm tripled up on Bournemouth of all teams in this configuration, but a bit of tinkering maybe could get Evan Nilsson back in the team if he looks worthwhile. So that's what I'm thinking as a possibility for next week. Haven't set anything in stone yet. Rolling the transfer right now just because I don't feel like there's any massive need to move anyone around. It would be someone like Tuanzebe, and again, I'm not going to double up on the Spurs defense right now. Brighton certainly have the potential to score, so don't really feel the need to make that move if it's just going to be for a bench option. And then who knows, Mark Guiu may get minutes off the bench. We keep telling ourselves Chelsea recalled him for a reason, so the hope is we learn that reason sooner rather than later. And very last, just a quick wrap up here to look at how the draft league went this past week. It was a loss for the I Quit Work for this squad over in the CT Doesn't Know How to Join league, so that bumps me down to second behind Johnny. 36 points, bit of a disappointment. All the points really coming in defense. Again, almost an identical back line. Pedro Porto, Tarkowski, Senesi, Diouf, and then Dan Burn instead of Axel Tuanzebe. I don't know why it doesn't want to show me the points totals, but that is what it is. Okay, yeah, so we did start Tarkowski, so we got his 8 points there. Again, 6 points for Porto as well as Pickford. No returns from anyone else. Reinders, McAllister, Dango, or Wilson up front alongside Mark Guiu, who didn't even play. A couple of moves, and I am up against El Jefe himself, Anthony. I am starting Dubravka over Pickford in this league, A, just to make things interesting, but B, I feel like I can get Tarkovsky instead of the Pickford pick. I am starting Saka. I drafted him, and again, he's been injured. I saw one report in the latest video from Let's Talk FPL, Andy digging up a report saying that Saka might feature for Arsenal, and of course I know it's Man City, but he's always a threat to get on the score sheet, get attacking returns when he's in the squad. Reinders I don't feel great about. I did move I picked up James Garner here. Who did I move out for him? My memory is worse than that of a goldfish. Alexis McAllister is moved out, so I brought in James Garner. I also I had on my bench the other attacker for the Chris Wood team. My brain is fried today, guys. Taiwo Awoniyi for Nottingham Forest is out because despite not being flagged in any way, he's not getting any minutes, and I forgot that he had that severe medical scare last season. So hope he's still recovering from that. I'm sure he is. Hope he's recovered fully quickly, but it doesn't look like he's going to be featuring in the Premier League anytime soon. Of course, now that I say that, he will start this weekend. Nemecha is the one that I'm bringing in, Lucas Nemecha for Leeds, just to have someone who's getting minutes over someone who's not. Gordon serves the third game of his 3-game suspension this weekend, so he will be back. Not that Arsenal at home is a super exciting fixture to include him for next week in Gameweek 6, but glad that I've held on to him. I was tempted to trade him away and try to get a serviceable striker because I really don't have any. Again, there's a bit of hope that Callum Wilson might start maybe alongside Fulkrug if Graham Potter really just rolls back the years, goes full 2013 on us, and just sends out a 4-4-2 to try to see what might work for this struggling West Ham team. But who knows? Maybe he starts as the lone striker over Fulkrug. He's already gotten a goal this season. I don't believe Fulkrug has, although he's come close. So we will see how that looks. But any minutes that he does get, even if it's just 20 at the end of the game, the hope is that he'll return for me here. And then again, also starting Mark Yu, who may not even feature. That might mean Tarkovsky or Nemecha off the bench. We'll see how that all goes. Saka, again, is a question mark. So not feeling great, but I think this is going to be a very good team looking ahead to next week and going forward. Obviously, no wild cards or chips to play in the draft league, so we'll see what sorts of waiver wire pickups and trades we can make to improve this squad. But second, 2 wins and a loss after 3 weeks is not too bad for me. So that's going to do it for this week, guys. Best of luck to you and your squads. Make sure you go out there, win your week on the website and in the real world. Wishing you all the best. Again, I'm Nick Boonstra. If you want to go ahead and support Squad Talk FPL, I'm going to go ahead and leave a link to my Buy Me a Coffee down in the description, as well as, again, links to the Spotify and Apple podcast availabilities there. If you want to listen to this as audio over video, make sure you hit subscribe on YouTube if you are listening. And again, if you are on audio, check out the YouTube as well. You get to see my beautiful face. I shaved my beard. How would you know that? I trimmed my beard this week, but how would you know if you weren't on YouTube? So that's going to do it. Best of luck, guys. Make sure you're listening to plenty other FPL podcasts. Leave your questions for me in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.